Hello, newsies. Welcome to Know Your News's edition of Get the Flick Out of Here. I'm your host, Pawlowski. With me, as always, is Kate. I am not here right now. I am somewhere else. Yes, spooky season, as evidenced by the shirt that I wear during Schlocktober. I'm on vacation right now as you're watching this. So we taped this a couple days before. Kate, it is now officially Schlocktober. And to start it off, I wanted to do something gentle, something you
could say it
completely inoffensive. I want to do something very sweet and wussy for you. Just
something
Baby
Kate could handle.
Baby Kate could handle a comedy, a nice little fun 80s sex romp comedy. Starring a barely post-pubescent Jim Carrey in the lead. It's a little horror comedy. It deals with vampires. And I thought to myself, well, this will be good to ease Kate into the rest of the month of her just watching everything from between. I don't believe you had to watch any of this film through closed eyes, did you?
No, it was actually quite charming, and Jim Carrey is like one of my favorite actors. So, getting to see him, we've gotten Tom Hanks on here, we've gotten Jim Carrey on here. If we get Bradley Whitford on here, I'll be a very, very happy gal. But they're like the Jim Carrey and Tom Hanks are two of my favorite actors in the whole wide world. So the fact that we've got to multiple times do Tom Hanks movies and we get to do a Jim Carrey one here makes me very, very happy.
I have a Bradley Whitford film we could watch next week, but you won't be able to watch it because Cabin in the Woods is a crazy friggin' horror film, and Bradley Whitford is great in it, and you'll never be able to watch it. So I guess
same with Get Out. People were like, "Well, Get Out wasn't scary." I'm like, you underestimate what a freaking sissy I am. I watched this during the day today instead of last night because I was like, "Well, what if there is something scary that I won't be able to sleep?" But I could have handled watching this last night.
I think you could have. Yes, I think you could have.
This was actually we were talking about it before we went on air. This was good. Like, this is a charming little comedy horror flick. And anytime Jim Carrey plays innocence in something, there's just this like very easy to. He's very likable. It's very easy to fall in love with his like naivety in things. And this is like a very, very young Jim Carrey. So this was even more fun on like the first half of this, and then obviously
also like I'm going to fix this movie and make it an absolute classic that everybody loves and will watch forever and ever and ever.
You're deleting one scene away and you're 80% of the way there.
Well, that will do it, but I'm also going to delete the people, the two guys who were in that scene. I don't think the movie needs them, and in fact I think the movie doesn't work because they are in the movie. And I will tell you why. The logic completely breaks down. So, this movie stars Lauren Hutton, the model turned actress. At the time, she was 41 when she made it. Well,
that's not fair to women around the world.
No. But she's supposed to be, a cougarish type lady preying on younger men or whatever kind of a thing. So it works, tracks. She is the countess. She's the vampire, the nominal vampire of the film. She has a manservant, butler / chauffeur / Girl Friday, who is played by Cleavon Little from Blazing Saddles, which I always was like, this dude was the lead in one of the most like iconic comedies in the history of film, and then just wasn't, didn't really do much. I found he died of colon cancer tragically in 1992. Like he was only 53 years old.
That's so sad.
That is very sad. I was like, why haven't I seen this guy in more? Oh, that's why. Oh. But he's very good in this. At one point he says, she comes into her bedroom and she walks over to the closet. All right, now, Sebastian, come out of the closet. And he flings open the doors. I came into the closet centuries ago, and I'll bet you friggin' didn't. Because a black man coming out of the closet as gay in centuries ago would no. She has a host of familiars. There are other vampires, but they're not the head vampire. And this movie doesn't explain a lot of the logic around their ideas of what vampires are. She has to drink the blood of a virgin male 3 times before Halloween every year, or she gets really old. I mean, gets really old when they actually say later, all we got to do is get you some blood and you'll go back to normal, you'll be fine. That's not really enough of a consequence. She should like turn to dust. I mean, I don't know what the oh no, if I don't get the blood by Halloween, then I got to get the blood by Thanksgiving so I can turn back to my regular self. Didn't feel like enough of a urgency.
That's a very fair critique. She does do a good job of making it feel like, well, what is the point of living if I've actually aged? Like
right, that is true.
Her character makes it seem like if I don't have my beauty, I have nothing. Right. But to your point, it's like, well, we are talking about murdering. Mm-hmm. So if there's something a little bit more oomph behind it, could definitely help things along in this.
She has a whole bunch of other vampires who like work for her, but they don't need the blood of a virgin 3 times before Halloween or they get old. It's only her, like
it is very specific to her.
Yeah. And they never explain why they don't need it. You know what I mean? They it's just whatever. We start out with Sebastian, with Cleavon Little, bringing her a Bloody Mary. Ha 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 ha. And she tests it. She wakes up in her coffin. Wake up, princess, countess. It's almost sunset. So she takes a drink and she goes, Austrian peasant. Early 1700s. O positive. Which is a cute gag until you ask yourself, how did they keep the blood on ice for 250 years? Like that was the thing for me that I didn't understand. There was the idea. Like wine. But is it? It's blood. Like he shows it getting out of the deep freeze or whatever. There was no deep freeze. Whatever. It is. So this is where she describes her dilemma. It is almost Halloween. It is a little over a week away, and we need to. I need to get this blood. And there's no virgins. This is the movie's prime conceit. Virgins do not exist in the 20th century. Some of the familiars have been out looking for virgins, and they said the closest we could find is an 11-year-old. Says the British, the Cockney young British woman who is the closest we could. Call blimey, the closest we could find it is an 11-year-old. And then and the countess says, "Don't be disgusting." But like beggars can't be choosers. He's technically a virgin. Bite him.
Yeah. Pedophilia being different though, like.
But she never has sex with him. Never has sex with Jim Carrey. That's the whole point.
That is very true.
Because he has to stay a virgin. But here's the deal also. The movie says there are no virgins of a suitable age to seduce, I guess, who live in the 20th century. And the movie says there are 3 of them. Immediately, there are 3 of them. And the movie doesn't work because there are 3 of them. She has to have Jim Carrey's blood. And he's the only one with a complication in that he is currently dating somebody and doesn't really want to cheat on her with the countess. If she had picked one of the other 2 guys, then it would be all movie's over in 15 minutes because either one of those dudes would have jumped into bed with her and let her bite them all over the place immediately. It doesn't make sense that there are these are the other virgins there who are Jim Carrey's friends who are not allowed to be a solution to her problem for some reason. And then maybe I thought, oh, maybe she's like very particular about how handsome the the virgins have to be, but like some of the familiars that she has working for her, i.e., other young men that she has corrupted, are not exactly lookers. So no. I don't even know what the deal is with that.
So I feel like it should have gone one of two ways. One, there had to be a reason those two weren't. Like, if you're gonna do that, positive, right, whatever, she maybe could be
got the right blood type. Yeah,
it has to be the right blood type, or or she has to have aged and she needs all three. Like, they didn't unage her enough after she killed the first two. And there's also an opportunity to make it a little more scary for people who are not me by having her actually go through them. And then you're like, oh, like, he should be aware of her. Right. So it might like build things out in that way. But you're right. And that there's it's unjustified why she doesn't go after the two of them.
So she says, get out there and find me a virgin. There are no virgins. Jim Carrey's a virgin. We know because he's trying to have sex with his girlfriend in an ice cream truck at another Lover's Lane place. This is not even Lover's Lane. This is a parking lot next to an oil field. That is literally where it is, and everyone is having sex in their cars except for poor Jim Carrey and his girlfriend.
I was like, what is the deal with back-to-back weeks of ice cream truck and inspiration point from Happy Days prototypes? Made me laugh because I was just like, there's not just rampant ice cream trucks everywhere. Like, why?
I don't even know why. I don't even know why he hasn't. Is it like he works?
I don't think
well, I mean, he has a job working in the ice cream truck, but not when he's at school because he's in high school. But like elsewhere. But that is also his mode of transportation to and from everything. Do you know how much battery power it takes to work the freezers to keep the ice cream thing? But they just live in there. All the ice cream just is. I don't what.
Yeah.
Is it like his dad's ice cream truck that like he's now like working for his dad? They've never explained it. And it's like, it's funny because he drives an ice cream truck comedy.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I did like that in this scene they established that she does want to have sex. She's just like not
right. I'm not ready yet.
I'm not ready. I don't want to lose my virginity in an ice cream truck. So I do like that. It didn't feel like in a lot of these movies, especially in this time, it's the dude just like kind of pushing things on a hesitant girl. Yeah. And even though
he is, but he
negotiation, but she actively says that she wants to, which makes it feel a little less like gross.
Yeah.
And then the scene where he gets out right after he gets out of the ice cream truck and he's looking around and just every car is rocking. Is a pretty hilarious shot for a comedy horror movie because it's like that's the real horror. Like you see it come across his face a little bit. So everybody else is getting laid but me.
Yeah, that's true. So that is that crucially, I'm going to have to do this because this is how my brain works. That takes place on Friday. Saturday, he goes to visit his friends, Russ and Jamie. The reason the movie doesn't work, Russ and Jamie, who work at a burger stand by a shopping center, and he goes to like visit them and talk to them. And he gets a burger, but he likes if burger is well done. That's a very crucial plot point because it shows how he changes. Anyway, he likes his burgers very, very, very well done. And they're like, we should all go out and get laid. I mean, you know, like Jim Carrey's like, maybe I should like just go out and find some strange woman and get laid. There wouldn't be all this pressure between me and Robin. That'll solve all my problems if I just cheat on my girlfriend of 4 years. And the other guys are like, this is a great idea. Let's all go out tonight to Hollywood. And the way Hollywood, so I'm going to say Thousand Oaks, somewhere in the valley. Like that's where they're living. So Hollywood is close enough to drive to, but also it's this very mystical place. And so they
high schoolers would never have wanted to go before. It's like a very funny thing to me.
Right.
Of course.
They go to Hollywood. This movie does the thing the 80s do of like, boy, LA is just full of weirdos. Hollywood. And so they're driving. Everything is lit up in neon. Everybody's crazy, but also hot. At one point, they drive by like an actual model photo shoot just on the sidewalk. And then also there is a lady, honest to God, walking a giant lion. She's just walking a lion, like as you would walk a dog, you know, like they do in Hollywood. Like everyone does, walks a very exotic, dangerous animal as a pet. And everyone, if they look over there and they go, wow, let's keep driving and not like call the police. Like, I don't, it's just a very odd
Hollywood is just a weird, weird place, man. It's basically Vegas and also Times Square.
Yeah. So they end up in a bar with phones on the tables and then numbers on the tables. So you can call the number on the phone of the table that has the people you want to hang out with. Russ calls a number. And the person says, come on over. And then we get our very first, somehow the most tame, unnecessary homophobic scene, where it is a man in drag, I guess is what you would call it. And she's like, are you a guy? Doesn't matter. And to Russ, it really shouldn't. Honestly, this guy is so hung up about having sex. Just come on, beggars can't be choosers. Let's go. But he runs away, and then the guy in drag says sissy. So that's the thing. It's the mid 80s. There was a horrible panic about all that, and like you gotta view it through that lens. This scene, the latter one, I will not be so kind to.
No, that was very out of place even for the time, I would say. But it is funny with these, like, because I was thinking about, I had suggested a while ago, like, hey, Ace Ventura is real weird but beloved. It would be kind of fun to take a stab at that. And then there's parts of it when you go back and watch it. I was like, man, Jim Carrey's like one of my favorite actors, but he has this extremely, not by his fault, but associated with this extremely homophobic scene. That one has a pretty transphobic scene in it at the end for sure.
Yeah. No,
so
that does not age well.
No,
and that was almost a full decade after this one.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like to go from the 80s and then be like, we made progress, and then to the 90s where it's like we're still seeing that. And it's almost kind of refreshing where I was born in the late 80s, so I don't like remember this, but I remember it in the 90s enough. I kind of can't explain it to my younger cousins, which I think is actually refreshing that like this was just like normal and tolerated. And they're like, yeah, but why? Like, how was it even thought of to be that way? Like, I can't go back and do that, but I do know it was rampant. And well, we could save that for the end because this one was not great, but comparatively not nearly as bad.
Unnecessary. And this is the
that's
first
what
thing.
It is, the out of the wayness of it all.
Yeah. This is the first thing that I will do. I will. I don't think he needs two friends, and they certainly shouldn't be basically the same one, except for one of them is, you know, they're both also other virgins. Correct. He needs one friend, two if you need one, but they should be ladies' men trying to get him laid, and therefore, because they've had sex multiple times with multiple partners, they are the thing he aspires to be. But he really shouldn't be, because that's what that kind of a thing. Like, we understand why he wants to do that, but also he doesn't. He wants to be the good guy to his girlfriend, but like, just go out and get laid. Do you think I tell Samantha about every time I go and get some strange? No, of course not. Like, whatever, that kind of a thing. But
it's what they did in 40-Year-Old Virgin, which is funny. Right. Like in that he's 40, but like his friends are all genuinely just trying to help him have sex. Like he should have one guy who's like a total ladies' man, to your point.
Right.
And if you must have two friends, one that's more like him, and then he's kind of the in-between guy, right? Like well, I love my girlfriend, but I also want to have sex. There's like
you can have the one guy who's a womanizer and the other guy who has a committed relationship, but he has had sex with his girlfriend. Whoever he is hanging out with, all the teenage boys need to not be virgins except for him.
Right.
The fact that there are other virgins, she could literally have picked one of them and solved her problem immediately. So she calls the table, the countess does, because we also see the familiars running around Hollywood seeing, oh my God, there are three teenage boys in an ice cream truck. They must be virgins. And so they call the countess, and she comes down there to this thing, and she invites him over to the bar, and she has a conversation with him where he lies about how old he is, and also I guess they don't check IDs at this bar.
He goes, some people could say I could pass for 18. He says,
yeah,
which I love. She's also, by the way, for like a model turned actor, pretty damn good in this. Like, she was not selected just for her look. She can act. She did good.
Yep. This is a little. The meeting scene is very actually kind of sweet, but it's like you could tell, like she's like, so do you come here often? Only when I'm on the prowl. And he's like, oh, okay. Like he's very awkward. Okay, hey, but looks like our friends Jamie and Russ, the two nerdy virgin guys, they're gonna get action too, because two ladies come over to talk to them who are probably in their 30s, and then a jealous husband shows up. And it's like, so you must be Chester, you pedophile, he says to his wife. You've been stepping out on me with all these young boys. And then he's brought a gun, and he's going to shoot up the whole place. And then there's a huge thing. Everybody goes crazy. And the countess says, we must leave. You don't want to spend the night in jail, do you? And so they exit, and they get into the limo of Cleavon Little, and they drive away. Later we see that Jamie and Russ have been arrested by two very comely female officers, and they're very happy about this.
I told you we'd get some action tonight during the pat down.
So Jim Carrey goes to her mansion, which does not exist anywhere near Hollywood. Just the layout of it, they're very make sure they always shoot it in darkness. So you cannot see that all of the foliage near it does not match the foliage anywhere else in the film. Because I'm pretty sure they tried to, like, but there's no such thing. Because the Beverly Hills, where that might be, but also would be hilly, and this is a very flat area that they are anyway. So he's very awkward. He's hanging out, she seduces him by biting all the buttons off of his shirt. And then she takes his pants off, and it's Jim Carrey's great. He's really great. Even this is years before In Living Color. He did this and then nothing, and then did In Living Color, and then became a huge star. Like, there's 5 years between this and his next big break, and I honestly don't know why, because he's great in this.
He's really, really, really great in this.
But his whole thing. Hey, so there's some lifesavers in that other pocket if you want to go rooting around in there. He's very, very good in this. But I guess she bites him on the thigh, and he goes, ow, and sits up. The next time we see him, he's passed out. And he gets bitten one other time and also passes out. And does vampirism cause unconsciousness? Because he doesn't remember anything that happened. This scene, we get like a scene in between where we see all the familiars like getting into their own coffins. By the way, one of them is a Confederate soldier, and I'm not even sure why. But anyway, they all get in their own little coffins. They all have like coffins accoutrement that like will tell you what era they're from. There's like a ship's cabin boy, and there's literally a ship in a bottle like on top of his coffin. And then the Confederate soldier has Confederate flags strewn everywhere, but doesn't have an accent. And I don't know why they couldn't hire a guy who could do a Southern accent, whatever. There's also like these two twin strongmen types from the circus, and a World War I flying ace. And then
that was such a cute way to give them just like a little bit more character for some peripheral characters here. Like it was really a clever device.
And then there's the like My Fair Lady Cockney girl from 1870s London. And then there's the most recent one, which is a flower child from San Francisco in the 60s, which is like 17 years before this. And they talk about how hundreds of years ago when I was like, she's the brand new one. And I was like, okay, she's only been around for a little while. I feel like there's an opportunity there for her to explain to Jim Carrey in like what he's in for, kind of a thing. Like, it's totally fine. I mean, I'm the new girl here, and it's so cool to actually have somebody here who wasn't born like 1,000 years ago. You know, like that could be a fun little relationship they have, but they never touch on it ever. And it's I thought that was kind of a failure of the movie to like have him get to know his future coworkers at some point and him go, wait, I don't want to do this at all. This seems weird. Anyway. So he passes out. He wakes up right before dawn, and he's given orange juice. And she leads him to believe they had sex, even though he doesn't remember it. So he's like, "Hey, yeah, I mean, I don't want to be weird about this, but I actually kind of in a committed relationship. That's so cool. I have no problem being the other woman." And he's like, "Great." So he's like, "I will have sex with you again then, and it's good that we will not be having any strings attached." Which is just a weird thing to like make this guy not like this guy right away. But he drives his ice cream truck away. That was Saturday. We don't see what happens on Sunday. The next scene is Monday when he is in line at the cafeteria, and he wants a burger, but wants it to be rare, like really rare. How about, can I have one of those uncooked ones? And the lunch lady's like, yes, I will gladly poison you. And he eats a raw hamburger as opposed to having it well done before and wanting it extra well done 2 days ago. So, he's changing. He's turning into a bit.
Again, another clever little device, right? Like that's there was a lot of effort with that.
He's talking to his friends, and they are like, "Hey, so what happened? You guys, like, I tried calling you yesterday, but you were all out." It's like, we had to spend the night in jail. It was awful. But anyway, tell us more about what happened to you. Did you have sex? He said, Russ says, did you go for the pokey? And I'm like, so they're very loud discussing this thing. It's like, I don't want to talk about it. It was weird. I was drunk. I don't remember any of it. But of course, like Robin, his girlfriend, is sitting right behind him in the cafeteria, hears all of this and publicly yells at him. And so he has to follow after her. And she's going to break up with him because he says, yes, I went home with a woman I met at a bar in Hollywood. And no, I don't remember what happened, but I think we might have had sex and I'm really sorry. And it's not going to happen again. I feel really terrible. But I can't remember any of it. And she's like, you're lying. You must remember it. And but he should remember it. But also they're doing I was drunk.
Yeah,
I was drunk.
I
was so drunk, you guys. I had like a beer and a half. I was so drunk. So she breaks up with him publicly. And she gives her ring back, which feels very 1954.
50s, yeah.
You know,
she was pretty good in this too. Like,
she was good.
She had a good performance in this.
He's in the wrong class for some reason. They're trying to show this as something different. He's dissecting a frog, which must be like a vampiric thing to do. He's not eating the frog or sucking its blood. He's just looking at the thing. And the teacher comes in and says, "You're not in this class." And he's like, "Oh my God, you're right. I'm not." And he leaves. I don't know what that scene was innate of. It didn't really help anything. He was funny because he was like, puts the frog back together very gingerly and tries to walk out and trips over things. He's a funny actor, but like the scene doesn't do anything. The next thing is,
this to me felt like stuff got edited around it, like that there were multiple beats in here to try and show that that he would be fascinated with the, I guess, insides of a living thing or whatever. Right. Like that there probably should have been like 2 other ones that got built out that way. But this alone, he's very good though. Like when you look at how young he was in this, like his Jim Carrey-ness was always there, and that's pretty cool to see.
It is never really explained. We know that the scene in the cafeteria was Monday. We don't know if we think the scene was the same day in the science lab because he was wearing the same shirt. I think he was wearing the same shirt.
So.
I think he was wearing the same shirt, but we don't know when any of the other things take place in the following week. So the scene where his 78-year-old father walks into the room. Like I thought it was supposed to be his grandpa, but it was his dad.
I noticed that too. That age gap was weird.
And I looked it up. The actor was born in the mid-20s. So he was like 60, but he looked worse than 60.
It was a rough 60.
But Jim Carrey is napping in a steamer trunk at the foot of his bed. And he's like, your mother's worried about you. You've been looking kind of pale lately. I mean, it's been what, maybe 3 days. Pale lately seems weird. Also, you're not sleeping. We know. We can hear you pacing through the house all night. 2 nights at most. It feels like this is something that would you be saying to him after he's been doing it for a week or more. But he says, maybe we should see a doctor, or he's like, no, I'm fine, Dad. I just I've been under a little stress. Robin and I are having some problems. Like, okay, well, cool. Just get some sleep, because in the bed, make your mother feel better. And then he does get some sleep in the bed. He has his first dream sequence. He's drinking champagne with the countess. Cleavon Little is playing an accordion on roller skates. He's smoking cigarettes. Does the thing that a lifetime ago I would do with the ladies, which is to take 2 cigarettes, light them both, and then pass one to her.
Oh,
it was a different time, the 90s. So then he can't get his lighter to work, so he lights them off her thumbnail, which is on fire, which I thought was a weird little dreamy kind of thing. She plays footsie with his crotch. They kiss, but she's got fangs, and he wakes up. First dream.
I sincerely appreciate that even in his dream, he can't get it right.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I love how even in, I guess at the most in his subconscious, he can't even light the cigarettes for her.
Right.
It's pretty cute.
This is another day at school. I don't know if it's the next day at school. I don't know how many days have happened since they broke up. But one of Robin's friends is played by Megan Mullally from Will and Grace. And I thought it was fun to see her very young.
It was. I didn't expect it because I knew about Jim Carrey, obviously, but she's it's a small part. She's got 2 scenes, but she's fun. She's fun in it. Great.
But he just keeps going. He comes up to Robin and says, I was drunk. I was so drunk. It's like, what is wrong with your hair? And his hair just kind of has the wet look to it. It looks like he got out of the shower 10 minutes ago. It doesn't look crazy. Later he has it really slicked back, but it's fine. But he says, you look like Jerry Lewis. And then he does, I don't know. I thought I look like De Niro. Look a little bit like De Niro. And I was like, Jim Carrey put that in the thing himself. That was not in the script. He decided he was going to do that. And they were like, well, we can't take it out now. It's too good. But I'm wondering,
somehow we're like, how do we reverse engineer this really great impression with this movie? It was one of those two for sure.
Does his hair just do that naturally now? The way he says it's I don't mean for it to look like this, that he wakes up and his hair is slicked back. That's a thing that happens to vampires. Because I'll tell you, none of the other vampires who have been bitten by the Countess have hair that's slicked back.
That's true, but I also haven't seen a vampire that uses hair product, so
I don't know. It's true. It's weird.
It's 1/2 dozen the other, I guess.
But he's like, listen, I'm sorry. I'm drunk. I'm supposed to make mistakes. I'm a teenager. I'm a teenage boy. I'm supposed to make mistakes. You're a teenage girl. You're supposed to say no, and I'm supposed to get pissed off. Let's get back together. And she's like, okay. And I was like, this was not a sufficient makeup scene. She still thinks you had sex with a random woman you met in a bar in Hollywood. You've been dating for 4 years.
About it. Yeah.
She was supposed to lose her virginity to you on prom night. She would not be like, let's get back together. That's fine.
Okay.
Everybody,
this all happened 2 days ago, but
everybody totally on the quad is like, yay! Which was just a weird thing. So the next scene, we figure out she's 390 years old. She misses the time when you could have just walked into the village and picked up a shepherd or 2 and gotten your virgin blood. We have to go find Mark, and I'm like, I want to introduce her to the incel community because there are so many virgins out there. Just go to a wrestling show. You will see so many virgins. I'm sorry. But the idea that she can't find any virgins anywhere.
All of my Twitter followers, 60% of them. Anybody that's first name, bunch of numbers, you found it. You found the virgins.
So sorry. That was very mean of me, but also very true of me. I'm sorry. It was just a weird thing.
You
that, like,
don't have to apologize.
It has to be this version. I mean, if they had said, I must have the blood of the same virgin 3 times, but they don't. They just say virgin blood. So the fact that she's found one, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Mark, the character that Jim Carrey plays, you can tell he has a kind of an affable confidence to him. He doesn't seem virginal. His friends absolutely are virgins. So, like, the idea that, like, you could be able to pick him out, like, that dude has not had sex with anybody ever. That dude's never seen boob. Like, you could totally tell. I feel like she should be able to do that at literally any shopping mall and find 10 or 15 immediately.
Been to several independent wrestling shows. I do, to your point, appreciate that Jim Carrey, while playing innocent and having this kind of moral tug of war,
right?
He does not come across as it's very easy to have this character come across as unlikable, whiny. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that I wouldn't say like he's an overly confident guy, but he has something to him. So many times this character archetype is presented in this way where you're like, well, of course you didn't get laid. You're so annoying or wimpy or like there's. So I do appreciate that in this. But you're right in that the undoing of this movie is that its own spell kind of betrays itself. Like she could go find anybody else.
So anyway, Jim Carrey drops his friends off at the laundromat because they're going to go pick up chicks at the laundromat. They try to pick up chicks at the laundromat. The scene is too long. It doesn't go well for either of them. There is so much of this movie. There is so much of this movie that is spent with these two guys.
That doesn't need
and
to
I
be.
don't know. No, this is the Jim Carrey movie. That if they're in a scene with him, fine. But you don't need scenes where these guys appear by themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense for them to, I don't know. But
it's way too long too. Like, if you want to throw in flavors of that, that's fine. But they also don't really go anywhere with these two guys.
No, they don't.
So it's kind of pointless.
They don't change. They don't get different or whatever. Anyway, he's visiting his girlfriend who works at like a boutique that sells clothes, and then he's just this is Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey, trying to like make her laugh while she's helping a customer. He's doing very fun stuff. So he's like, I want to try these pants. He's like, they're black. So like, I feel like yes, black pants exist, but she's very anti him wearing black pants. And it's like, I like
he's only around here.
Yeah. So he goes in the fitting room, try them on. And then the countess is in there, but he doesn't see her because he's looking in the mirror and she has no reflection. Vampires. And so she's trying to seduce him as well. And she hates his girlfriend and tells him, if she sees me here with you, I'm going to be in big trouble. And like, I want you to be in big trouble. And then she's like throwing him in some sweaters to try. They're like baby blue and lavender. And she's like, no, we're not doing this. And so she throws them back out. And he says I just get away from me to Lauren Hutton. But Robin thinks it's about her. So she storms off in a huff. And then please don't bite the buttons off my shirt. Because that's what she does. And then she takes off his pants and bites him on the thigh. And then he immediately passes out. And you hear thump as he falls over. And so Robin goes to check on him, and he's pantsless and not bleeding, which is a interesting thing that like she pierces his femoral artery.
Yeah,
but there's no blood. So then like she says, oh, I don't like this girl. I think she's cute and sweet, and I hate her guts. And she's pissing me off. So she has to get him a third time. There's just whatever. So Robin is like, I guess they patch it up after the misunderstanding there. The next time, Jim Carrey's 68-year-old mom is cooking him breakfast, and it's like, well, look, it lives. Look at you, sleepyhead. What time is it? 8:15. My God. When I was 18, if you would let me sleep in, I would have been in there till 1 in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. The idea that like look at you, 8:15. She's making him an egg burger, which I'm assuming is like a burger with a fried egg on top.
Yeah, I think so.
But they just
a
call it an
breakfast
egg
burger, as we would say.
Yeah. It's like, what happened to your shirt? All the buttons are ripped off of it. That's the second time in a week. How does that even happen? Dad shows up, who hates jogging. And he's like, yes, because you're very old. You're gonna die with a heart attack. And he's like, finish your juice before you go. He doesn't say where he's going, but before you go. And he grabs a glass, but it doesn't have the orange juice in it. It has the meat juice that she squeezed out of a burger, and he just downs it. It's like, and his parents are like, what? We don't know what he's late to. Like, this is the middle of the week? It has to be, because there's Saturday, the first Saturday where he meets her, the Saturday where there's the Halloween school dance. It has to be in the middle of the week. It's 8:15. Does he not have classes on Wednesday? I don't know, but he's sitting by his ice cream truck, and two kids show up who want push pops. And as he's getting them for them, all of a sudden he turns around and hisses at them, and they run away. He doesn't know why he hissed at them. He's very weirded out by this, so he goes to a nearby church, and because he's wearing all black, the homeless guy thinks he's the priest. So Jim Carrey goes into a confessional, and the homeless guy thinks that's the priest going to the confessional. So he goes into the other confessional, and Jim Carrey doesn't see that guy, so he thinks that's the priest. So he confesses to the homeless guy and tells all this stuff. And then the homeless guy at the end says, I think you need a shovel because you're in deep shit. And that's the end of that whole thing.
I like watching Jim, because it feels like they were like, this guy has an elastic face. We should make him hiss at those people. Mm-hmm. Seeing him like check his own behavior because he's trying to understand what's happening to himself is a really, really fun device in this. And I liked the church scene. Like, that was a fun.
It's fun.
They do misunderstanding really well. Like,
lots of misunderstandings. This feels like an episode of Three's Company, but over 90 minutes.
Sure. Yeah. I
a lot of misunderstandings.
With the dressing room scene, I was like, this feels right out of Frasier. Like those.
It's very sitcom.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Before sitcoms were a thing, though. Like, that's pretty cool.
Dream sequence 2. Now Mark enters the room as a vampire bat, turns into a full like Bela Lugosi style vampire. And Robin is asleep in the bed, and then wakes up and reaches out to him, and he bites her on the neck. And the countess watches, and she very much approves. And so he wakes up from dream sequence number 2. I guess you get one dream sequence after every time you get bitten. This is Saturday now. Okay, we've gone a full week. Halloween dance at school.
Favorite scene.
He is. Yep, I knew it would be. I was watching this like, oh, Kate's gonna love this. So he maintains he's not wearing a costume, and he's not. He looks like there were a lot of like I don't know, new wave bands in the mid '80s who dressed like this.
Yes.
If he looks like a vampire, then like the Thompson twins look like vampires. You know what I mean? Like all in black, big chunky coats, sunglasses, pale.
This is just a lot of bands in the 80s.
Yeah. A lot of bands in the 80s looked like this. Anyway, he maintains he is not wearing a costume. He was supposed to be Jack for Jack and Jill. If you asked me without her telling me what Robin is supposed to be, I would not have said Jill from Jack and Jill. Like,
I don't even really know how you quantify Jill from Jack and Jill, but this wasn't it. Yeah.
Like every little kid's book that has the Jack and Jill nursery rhyme in it, they're drawn differently. They're not like, it's not like Little Red Riding Hood where you see the hood, you see the basket, now you know who it is. Like, I don't know. So Megan Mullally has another little scene here. She's great. She's like, I'm gonna enter you both in the costume contest. Jill for Robin, and for Mark, vampire. I'm not wearing a costume. Of course you're not. What a riot. Like, she's great. Megan Mullally, you're like, I was like, what? Okay, so what casting director saw her in this and said, we're not going to use her and stuff until she's in 12 years later in Will and Grace, because she's really good. And
she is really good.
It's very odd. So this is where we go into the school dance, and there are several dozen 30-year-old extras playing high schoolers. And I can tell you from experience being on one of these things as an extra, you don't see the script. You don't have any idea what the hell's going on. They're like, you're in a high school Halloween dance. Come in costume. They'll figure out what to do with you. You know, bring your own wardrobe, and we're gonna stand around all friggin' night. And there's a few scenes where like you'll be milling around in the back, but you have no idea what the actors are doing or saying. Nobody knows who Jim Carrey is. He's not a star yet. So like they're just watching this thing. So when the background actors all gather around and watch a dance off, an impromptu dance off between Jack and Jill and lion tamer girl, who is what the countess is dressed up as, and they're like, what is happening? This is real. They have no idea what's going on. They have no context for any of this. But there is a full dance-off between Robin and the countess for the custody of Jim Carrey that is fully choreographed to the tune of hands off. He belongs to me, hands off. He's my private property, hands off. I'm telling you one last time. The boy is mine. It's honestly great 80s soundtrack. I went and I looked it up. I've never heard of any of these bands that did this stuff, that did any of these songs. They play the song Once Bitten. Once bitten, you'll be feeling no pain, boy. They play that song 100 times in this movie. It's a catchy little ditty. Never heard of the group that does it. Never heard the song before now. I cannot believe that this did not have more radio play because they're honestly really fun little Cyndi Lauper-esque type, like mid 80s, you know. They're got a little hook. Yeah. So it's a full-on dance-off. And it's entirely absurd. At one point, Robin just strips through her underwear to dance in this thing. And it's just, yeah, that's it. So eventually she wins because the countess gives up. And then she leaves in a huff with Sebastian. There's more than one way to skin a cat, my dear. Then he leaves with her. And that's it. And they have a full-on dance-off. It goes crazy. Everyone cheers for them. And everyone's in the middle of everyone cheering. Then the principal's like, I'd like to announce the winner of the costume contest. It's Mark for the vampire costume. And he goes, I'm not wearing a costume. And runs away. And it just feels like they smashed everything that should happen at the dance into one like 4-minute thing. But it was fun.
It's so fun. And Jim Carrey being caught between being a human and a vampire and between two women, like all coming to a head. It's just like such a fun thing. This felt so much like if you threw horror elements that Kate could handle on top of like the dance scene from Grease. Like it's just a really fun thing to play with in the context that it's in. I had an absolute blast with it. And I just love how Jim Carrey is like, I don't know what's going on with me with my hormones with women, and I don't know what's going on with me where I'm half turning into a vampire.
He's one of a kind, especially young stuff, what he can do with his body. But the way that he was moving on the dance floor, like, it was great. Like, it was just, you see why they had to cast this guy, because, like, I mean, it makes it so much like you just any other random, you know, guy in his mid-20s playing 18, trying to do all of this stuff, but also like making every movement in this scene funny and accurate. Also, amazing. Again, watching this, can't believe he did not have a serious film career. At least
right
4 or 5 levels of this, 4 or 5 types of these movies. Between, like, I can't listen, no shade to the fellas in that movie, but I cannot believe Jim Carrey was not in Weekend at Bernie's. He had to have auditioned for it. He was the right age. I can't, like, if you look at those guys, they were fine, but they weren't Jim Carrey. And I'm trying to think of all of these movies made between 85 and 91, the first season of In Living Color, that required funny young dudes to be in them. and think how all of them would have been improved if Jim Carrey played that part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Really
Like it's just a weird thing that he didn't have a career until he got on Living Color and was a sensation on TV, and then did Ace Ventura, which was not supposed to be a success at all. It blew up huge.
Not have been without him. It is so bizarre without him.
No, it would not have been without him. But it blew up huge, and then it was like
The Mask,
Batman Forever, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and he just through the 90s was just like off he went. But there's no reason why he didn't went off earlier. You know what I mean? So it's just weird. So he runs away, and Robin follows him, and is like, I don't know, man. It's just so all those kids screaming and crying, going crazy. I couldn't deal with it. Oh, I need a hug. And when he hugs her, he looks in the mirror on this trophy case, and he's not there. And then she looks at his reflection, and he is there. And they're like, but I wasn't there a second ago. And then they look back, and then he's not there again. And she looks at him. She looks at the reflection. She's like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So that was a Saturday. I don't know what happens on Sunday. This movie's not good with Sundays, but there's too much time that goes by between her and Jim Carrey both realizing he is turning into a vampire for sure now because he doesn't have a reflection. There's too much time that goes by between that and the next scene, which has to happen on a Monday, if not later, because she goes to a bookstore and meets the most random character, the bookstore guy, who is, I guess, Eastern European, but I can't place the accent. It's just, excuse me, do you have any books about vampires? Oh, vampires. Of course I have books about vampires. Come with me. I will show you all the books about the vampires. Is he Swedish? Is he Indian? Like what? I don't know what this guy's supposed to be, but it's very funny.
He just is.
Just weird. And she's like, so could vampires exist today? Like a female vampire who might have, I don't know, bitten somebody? He's like, oh, yes, of course. There could be any kind of vampires, female vampires, cats and dogs. This fun time in the 60s, there was a gerbil. She's like, but could they exist today? Oh, no, of course not. Because you see, the female vampire requires the blood of a virgin male. And of course, there are no virgins in the 20th century at all. Like, what? Suppose there was one. Well, how old would he be? 18? Oh, if he is an 18-year-old virgin, I think he has more problems than a vampire. I'm like, stop throwing shade at virgins, dude. Yeah. This is a very odd thing that the movie is obsessed with. That is very odd. It is the conceit of the film that every American male loses their virginity at 15 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's ever been the case, but it's a weird thing that the movie says that is what happens.
Yeah, the assumption you should have lost your virginity before it was legal too is a weird thing.
But girls should still be virgins.
Well, of course,
boys shouldn't. So the only thing that has to happen is that all boys at 15 years old get taken by their grandpa to visit a cat house. I don't like what. Play your logic out.
No, because there are women who would have had sex, and they would have had sex with everyone because they are lesser than. Because so they would make up for the numbers. Yeah.
So anyway, you see, he shows her like the way that he would have been bitten, according to this book, is on the inner thigh, so close to a source of untapped sexual potency. That's what she needs. So you need to be a bit on the upper thigh. So she is Jim Carrey's girlfriend. She says later, I've seen you in your boxer shorts, Mark Kendall. Okay. So she goes to his friend, says, you have to check to see if there are bite marks on his upper thigh. And you have to do this because if you care about Mark at all, you'll do this. Do you care about Mark at all? Because you could do it. You could literally ask him like, "Hey, Mark, can I see your inner thigh?" And he will
for
show
you.
you.
Yeah.
He will show you. It would be so much easier if you would do this.
Just do it.
And if you did do it, it would spare us the scene that follows, which is after gym class, Russ and Jamie, I'm sure, according to the director, hilariously, keep trying to look at Mark's crotch surreptitiously so he doesn't know that's what they're doing, to see if he has 2 fang marks in his inner thigh. And eventually they can't see it. So in the shower, Russ grabs him from behind and says, "Jamie, look, make sure you can look for them." And then another teenager in the shower starts screaming over and over and over again an epithet for a gay man, over and over and over again. And this also is now presented as the end of their lives. I mean, it's a different time in the 80s. Perhaps it would have required some massaging of social mores. However, man, this is where we should. That's it. We should just give up and move in together and get matching his and his towels. It's over for us. The movie did not need this scene whatsoever.
Real far out of the way.
Yeah. Also, it's like 7/8 of the way through the movie, and yeah. I was watching it, and I was like, "This is actually good." Why? It was #1 at the box office the weekend it debuted. It tailed off after that, but people really liked it. This should be considered. Like, there are a lot of teen sex romp comedies from the mid-'80s that are not as good as the first 7/8 of this movie.
Yes.
And then this scene happens, and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm glad nobody watches you. I'm glad nobody watches you, movie.
Especially, you would think this is one that would almost fall in like cult classic territory because Jim Carrey was in it, and because you got like Megan Mullally. It's just so far out of the way, and there is no justification for it. But I think what they're trying to portray is if you are perceived of as gay in high school, like, life is over for you. So I don't think they were going for homophobic in the sense that, like,
no,
if you're gay, your life is over. But like the perception of it, which is like sadly truer in the 80s than it should have been.
Everyone, every teenage male in that locker room and in that shower has a phobia of homosexuality in the way that they ran away.
It's disgusting.
I don't understand.
Disgusting little scene to just
doesn't
put
need
it
to
there
be there
for
at
no reason.
all. And then the aftermath thing where Russ and Jamie are working at the burger stand and going into how horrible it is and how Jamie thinks we must like it. What if we actually are gay?
God.
It's the worst thing ever. So then Jim comes to visit them, like, guys, what the hell was that all about? And he's like, you could have just asked me. Another way the scene didn't need to take place. But he sees Robin get into Cleavon Little Sebastian's limo and drive away. So the 3 of them follow to the Countess's mansion in the ice cream truck. They break in through a basement window, which is a good thing because that's where they're keeping Robin. She's tied to a chair and bound and gagged. And they're going to get out of there before, I guess, Jamie poops his pants, because that's what happens when he gets scared. But oh no, all the male vampires are there, and they're all in tuxedos. There's no escape. Now we take you to a ritual where there's all kinds of flames being carried, and there's a ritual gynecology table with stirrups, which was odd. Then he goes into a trance because she does this weird hand signal thing, and he goes into a trance. That's a thing that happens as well. But they're able to break free of all the vampires. They take one of the torches, they wave it at them. Vampires don't like fire. She holds out a cross at the countess and says, that only works in the movies. Besides, I'm an atheist. However, fire works. So they untie Jim Carrey, but the trance has a hold on him. It brings him back. And then she's like, no, just leave him alone. Why don't you just leave him alone? He doesn't want you because you're mean and evil, and I'm sweet and pure. So fuck off, she says, which I thought was a very good use of the one time you could say that in a PG-13 movie.
That's right.
So they run away. It's a very long chase scene where only the male vampires, the male familiars, do the chasing, and the two female familiars, my Fair Lady and Flower Child, stay back and like guard the other two virgins. And at one point it is heavily implied that they have sex with them because they disrobe in front of them. And it would honestly doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you had done something later where the countess finds out, okay, so anyway, there's a chase. They end up in the coffin room. Robin and Mark, they got to hide. So they hide in one of the coffins. And when all the vampires get in the room, break down the door that they've barricaded, the coffin is a rockin', so don't bother knocking. Which I'm sure has been said in Darby Allin's bedroom plenty of times. Anyway, sorry. So it just came into my head. I had to say it. So her having had sex with her boyfriend Jim Carrey in a coffin means that she can no longer have his blood. So now, like, she can't have his blood because now he's not a virgin anymore. So he's useless to her. And this is where she could go, find me the other two virgins who were here. And the boy vampires run up there, and they run over there, and they've had sex with the vampire ladies. And so they're also no longer virgins. At least that their virginity would have come in handy for that gag, but they never do that gag. She just turns old very quickly because it's now midnight on Halloween. But when she turns old, her hairdo changes. Her hair turns white. She has old age makeup. I understand the hair turning white. Why does the hairdo change? Why does she's now wearing a shawl as opposed to the slinky dress she was before? Then at the very end, when she turns as old as she's going to get, she's wearing a hairnet. I don't understand why does the hairnet materialize out of thin air and go under your head when you turn old if you're a vampire. Then he's like, don't worry. There must be some virgins somewhere in places like Kansas or Nebraska. Shade to Kansas and Nebraska. And it's like, no, I'll never find another virgin. Never, ever, ever. And then then Robin and Jim Carrey have more sex in a coffin. And that's the end of the film.
There were two other virgins.
She would not lose her virginity in an ice cream truck, but she would lose it in a coffin.
Well, she had to save her boyfriend from turning into a vampire.
Yep.
But yeah, the only thing that we kind of went through that I also had a moment of pause with was like, if you could put him in a trance with your hand thing, like what were you doing during the dance off? I loved the dance off, but like, if you had that kind of power,
yeah.
a lot of the errors in this movie are unforced, and it's mostly really good. Like I mostly had a lot of fun watching it, but like, why did you make the weird hand thing if it didn't happen earlier in the film? Why did you go out of the way to create such homophobia in your film? Like little things like that.
Right.
But I will say, like, this was a really fun watch, and I, for 2 weeks in a row, could watch it.
Here's how I'm going to do the final fixing. No Russ and no Jamie. Yes, one jock type who's at least one jock type guy who either is a womanizer or has a steady girlfriend who he has had sex with. So that way you get rid of the virgin thing. Also, instead of Mark being an only child, he has like an 11 or 12-year-old brother who is obsessed with vampires. and notices him changing, but his parents don't, because the parents being really old and weird is weird. But like him being like, hey, no, I think this is the thing. And he's the one who convinces Mark that this is what's happening to him, because Mark doesn't know what's happening to him, because he's still maybe thinks it's like this is like the latter stages of puberty. Maybe I don't know what's going on with me. No, you're turning into a vampire. But he's a street smart little kid who knows everything about vampires. And so when you go and rescue Mark, the people who rescue Mark are his jock buddy, and now the jock buddy's sidekick, 11-year-old brother. Who knows everything about vampires, but Jock Buddy is able, the guy would like stab him in the heart with a stake and stuff. Like there's a lot more comedy to be mined out of the odd couple of the streetwise 11-year-old and the dumb jock guy than there is about the two virgins. And also at the end, you could do one thing like, where will I find a virgin? And then the 11-year-old goes, don't look at me, lady. Like there's a fun things that you could do there. I don't know. There's just way better things that I feel like every scene that Russ and Jamie were in either didn't need to be included at all, or just like messed like things up with the continuity of what the film was trying to say.
Did it almost feel to you like this was supposed to be about the three of them, and then like it became about Jim Carrey? Like that's maybe. I felt like this was almost supposed to be more ensemble-y than it was, like that it ended up being.
Like if it
but
was
you're right in that like it's a pretty good movie, but there's like all these little things that you're like, it could be better, it could be better, it could be better. Like there's stuff left on the table for something that was already pretty good.
If she had to get 3 different versions in the original script,
yes.
And the first one was Russ, who was the smarmy guy who thinks he's hot shit, but he's definitely not. That he's the easiest one to get. Jamie is really scared of women, so that's the second one. And they start turning into vampires, and then Mark is the third one. And like that's the thing. But they end up being vampires, but it's okay because they each paired off with one of the female vampires, and they're going to have lots of sex for eternity. And honestly, they had nothing going for them anyway. So this is great. And they're the ones who end up in the coffins at the end, and not Mark in the thing. Like there's ways of doing that. I think that could have been fun if you had a full ensemble of 3 equally talented guys. But once you had Jim Carrey and then these 2 guys, you're like, all right, you're the sidekicks. Sorry, the whole thing's about this guy. And it just, it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is.
I will also say it's fun to have a woman in the vampire role, like a vampiress, because this shouldn't feel like progressive, I guess, but like it is different to have the male virgin be like the innocent whatever, especially in the 80s. Like that's a bigger deal, and then to have like the hot cougary vampiress was a refreshing change on the archetypes.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for you. You don't get to watch any more little cute comedies. You gotta watch. I'm not sure what we're gonna do next week, because I'm on vacation all weekend and I won't be back until Monday. So I'm not sure what we're going to do. I had this crazy
you didn't
plan.
Answer the question.
No, I know.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. It might be something you can't even watch, but it might be something you can, but through eyes at all. Like, no, I'm saying like you can't even watch it through the fingers. Like it might be something like that.
Like
I don't know yet. Okay. All right. So the full question. Do you get the flick out of here, or do you keep it in?
It's hard to reconcile us saying you should see something this homophobic in that one scene. Like there are ones that where it's like nobody should ever see that. Mm-hmm. But if you can reserve how terrible the stereotypes were a few decades ago, it is a keeper. Like I think the rest of it is actually really charming. And if you're a big sissy but you still want to feel included in October, you can watch it, because I can watch it, true. Which is the real litmus test. Yeah, so I would say keep it in, but warding for like extreme homophobia for no reason.
Yeah.
At 80% of the way through this movie.
Yeah, there doesn't need to be that.
I would completely understand if that was a deal breaker for you enjoying it, but the rest of this is a really fun movie. Yeah,
there's a lot of good things to recommend about this, including obviously Jim Carrey's
young baby Jim Carrey. Little baby boy Jim.
Dance Off was fun. There's enough little things wrong with it over the course of it, and then adding that into it when you know that's like it's
the second time in 3 weeks that we've gone splitsies.
It's a close one. Get the flick out of here. Wow. Yeah. That's egregious, because the whole thing is that because that doesn't need to be in there, you know, that's the absolute viewpoint of the director, of the people behind it.
Yeah, that's fair.
There are some serious, disgusting homophobes who made this movie, and because of that, I do not support their work.
Well, now I feel like a bad person.
No. The rest of the film is fine, but it is that scene is a testament to how those people act, because it is so unnecessary.
Yeah, it went really far out of its way.
It goes way far out of its way to be that and to espouse those views. I don't feel like I should support the people who made this movie's behind the scenes work because of it. That's all.
Understandable.
So now I'm probably going to watch some horrible, gruesome, disgusting, murdery, slashery film, but like, oh, it's great though.
Can you go watch Cabin in the Woods, and I'll just sit here like, I wish I wasn't a sissy.
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. All right, everybody. Until next time, we will decide whether we're gonna get the flick out of here. Bye, everybody.
RESPECT. Click the subscribe button and find out what it means to me. Nah, that doesn't have a ring to it. But if you like videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, subscribe now.